Young, and The Restless recap Saturday's update, the 29th of August, 2026. The events unfolding in the August 28 episode center around a frantic and deeply motivated Phyllis, whose desperate search for a missing Matt drives her to confront some of Genoa City's most formidable figures. Her mission to locate him is not merely a standard rescue effort, it is a profound psychological crusade. As she faces off against Victor and eventually turns to her son Daniel for help, it becomes increasingly clear that her determination to protect a man whom most of the town deems irredeemable exposes a deeply rooted vulnerability within herself. Phyllis believes with absolute certainty that Matt deserves a chance to be a different person, and in fighting for his right to a clean slate, she is fiercely projecting her own desperate need for redemption. The resistance Phyllis faces in her search is immense and deeply frustrating. When she confronts Victor, she hits a familiar brick wall of judgment. Victor represents the ultimate jury of their social circle, a man firmly rooted in his belief that a person's past permanently dictates their future. He views Matt exclusively through the lens of his darkest deeds, refusing to entertain the notion that such a deeply flawed individual could ever genuinely reform. For Victor, people like Matt are liabilities, not reclamation projects. This unyielding cynicism is not just an obstacle in her search, it is a direct insult to the core philosophy Phyllis is currently clinging to in order to survive her own emotional turmoil. Phyllis is not just worried about Matt's sudden disappearance. She is visibly and intensely enraged by the collective refusal of Victor, Adam, and even Daniel to acknowledge any possibility of his personal growth. This skepticism strikes a painful personal chord. She is infuriated that they refuse to look past his history, primarily because she knows intimately what it feels like to be judged exclusively by her worst mistakes. Throughout her entire life in Genoa City, Phyllis has been the pariah, the schemer, and the outcast. She has spent decades trying to outrun her own destructive choices, only to find that the town is always waiting for her to fail again. When Phyllis turns to Daniel for assistance, the interaction highlights the fractured nature of her own support system. Asking her son for help to find a man with such a notorious reputation naturally invites intense scrutiny. Daniel questions the depth of her investment, wondering why his mother is risking her own fragile standing to play savior to someone the rest of the world has written off. Daniel's hesitation is rooted in a protective instinct, knowing how easily his mother can be pulled into toxic dynamics. But to Phyllis, his reluctance feels like yet another layer of judgment. She refuses to accept the consensus that Matt is forever chained to his history, and she expects her son to back her up without prejudice. The psychological underpinnings of her crusade are incredibly complex. Phyllis has a long, documented history of sabotaging her relationships with her family, blowing up her life, and then expecting her loved ones to instantly forgive and trust her the moment she decides to turn over a new leaf. When they inevitably hesitate, her guilt quickly morphs into defensive anger. She is now watching Matt navigate a much steeper uphill battle. She does not deny the severity of his past actions, but she fiercely insists that the man she knows today is entirely different from the villain everyone else remembers. By fiercely defending Matt's right to reinvent himself, Phyllis is inherently advocating for her own right to a clean slate. She is using his journey as a proxy for her own desperate need for grace. Every time she argues with Victor or Adam about Matt's capacity for change, she is subconsciously pleading her own case. If the town can learn to accept that Matt has evolved beyond his worst transgressions, then perhaps there is hope that they can eventually do the same for her. Her defense of him is a defense of her own soul. A pivotal and highly revealing moment occurs during her intense confrontation with Adam. While defending Matt against Adam's predictable cynicism, Phyllis reveals a striking piece of self-awareness. She describes in vivid detail how determined Matt is to fix his past mistakes, even when no one cares, no one is watching, and no one is willing to listen to his apologies. He is doing the grueling, thankless work of penance without any guarantee of a reward. Then, in a rare moment of complete vulnerability, Phyllis openly admits to Adam that she would never have the fortitude to do the same thing. This admission highlights a core character flaw that Phyllis has always struggled to overcome: her demand that forgiveness operate on her preferred timetable. Matt does not demand that his absolution come quickly. He is clearly willing to continue facing the ugly reality of his past, even if doing so does not immediately restore his relationships or repair his shattered reputation. He accepts the isolation as part of the process. Phyllis, on the other hand, has always fought against that kind of prolonged suffering. Whenever Phyllis makes a positive change or attempts to right a wrong, she expects immediate recognition from the people she loves. She wants her growth validated instantly. When that validation is withheld, when her children or her peers demand time to rebuild their trust, her frustration often leads her right back into the destructive, self-sabotaging patterns that caused the rift in the first place. Her inability to sit with the discomfort of being unliked or untrusted has always been her Achilles heel. What she truly admires in Matt, therefore, is not just his supposed transformation, but his incredible willingness to endure the long, unrewarding road of redemption without the applause she so desperately craves. She sees a quiet, enduring strength in him that she wishes she could find in herself. His ability to keep trying, even when the world has turned its back on him, is a level of emotional endurance that Phyllis finds both baffling and deeply inspiring. She is drawn to him because he possesses the exact emotional tools she lacks. Both Adam and Daniel openly question the true nature of her intense attachment, wondering if her feelings for Matt have crossed the line from platonic support into romantic entanglement. Given her frantic state and her willingness to alienate powerful people to find him, it is a logical assumption. However, while her emotions are undoubtedly complex and deeply entangled, romantic love is far too simple an explanation for her fierce loyalty. The bond they share is rooted in something much more profound than standard romance. It is a bond forged in absolute isolation. Matt stood by Phyllis when she felt completely abandoned by the rest of the world. During her darkest moments, when her own family turned their backs and her enemies circled, Matt was the only person who offered her genuine support without demanding anything in return. He saw her at her absolute worst and did not run away. Now that he is missing, her determination to find him is driven by a fierce, unwavering need to return that loyalty. She refuses to be the person who abandons him when he needs someone the most, especially since she knows exactly how agonizing that abandonment feels. But beneath the loyalty and the admiration lies the ultimate psychological projection. Phyllis needs Matt to be okay. She needs him to be found, and more importantly, she needs his redemption arc to be real. If Matt Clark, of all people, a man with a history so dark that the entire town shudders at his name, can genuinely change, do the hard work, and earn a second chance at life, then the implications for Phyllis are massive. If Matt can be redeemed, then Phyllis is not doomed to be forever defined by her own worst choices. His success is the tangible proof she needs to believe in her own potential for salvation. Finding him is not just about bringing a friend home. It is about securing the evidence that a person can climb out of the deepest moral abyss and stand in the light again. Phyllis needs Matt's redemption to be authentic because it is the only thing that will finally allow her to believe in herself.